pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple of public hearings tonight, so anybody who may have signed up for citizens' time, if you're here to talk about the public hearing on the sale of the Camp Family Homestead or the public hearing on the 1920 budget, that may be the more appropriate time to talk. However, if you'd like to speak at citizens' time and you're on the list, feel free to do so. So we will go right into citizens' time. First is Mr. William Cannon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, William J. Cannon, 112 Page Street, Franklin. Just a couple of questions I had, and a lot of people in Franklin starting to ask questions. How and when did you get in the financial condition we did? We thought you monitored the books every month, and maybe if you did, these things slip, but we would appreciate a little bit more detail about how we got in the financial situation. It is our finances also, and it's been not a lot of details out there. What happened, who caused it, or whatever, and has anybody been held accountable for it? We'd like the answers on that, okay? We'd also like to know exactly how much do we owe in debt. There's different numbers floating around. It would help us to have correct information. Also, I would like to know if you can make public the goals that you gave to the city manager. So at the end of the year, you can hold the city manager accountable. I'd also like to know if y'all to know the goals she gave her department managers so they can be held accountable. One thing in this city is a lot of times people aren't being held accountable, and it's time that people start being held accountable. Okay? Industrial park. A lot of us are calling it the agricultural park. We'd like to know exactly how much do we owe, have we spent on that industrial park, and how much we brought in. It's time something happens at an industrial park. And the other thing I'll tell you is this. Look around the industrial park and see what you see. And if I was a prospective buyer and I saw what I saw across the street, I wouldn't want to go there. And for some reason, it's going to take an act of God for y'all to take care of that problem. It's been taking care of it for 4 years. That's the problem with the city of Franklin. One of the business leader says, I can take care of a problem quickly. Here in the city, it could take 3, 6, 9 months to take care of the problem. The other thing, we were misled about SIPSA. We were told, oh, we're in great financial shape, and then all of a sudden, the city council person over it comes and says, we're not, and apologize, we owe all this money. We bit the bullet big time with our trash collection fee, with the promise that when and if the debt was paid, you would make it up to us. The debt has been paid to SIPSA. Now, you tell us maybe you can't do anything until the next financial year, but something tells me you got all this extra money coming in every month. It could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that you're going to get used to getting in every month, and it's going to take a hard time for y'all to say, hey, maybe not give them that money back. It's a mistake y'all made, not us. The debt problem is a mistake y'all made, not us. And it's time we get some relief on the trash collection fee. And we need to know when. And I'd like, and like I said, you're getting all this extra money every month. I know we have financial problems, but this was a promise you made. The last thing I just wanted to mention, the article that came out in the Tidewater News by Mr. Robert Morgan, read that.
Mr. Cannon, your time is up.
Right. The vacancy tax, great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do I have any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go into the consent agenda. We have the approval of the April 3rd budget work session. With any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So be it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And aye. That motion carries for that work session. Then we have the revised meeting minutes from the regular meeting of April the 8th. Everybody has a copy at their seat. Anybody see any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
And aye. Those regular meeting minutes of April the 8th are approved. Thank you. And then we have a proclamation, from the Building Safety Week. Vice Mayor.
Building Safety Month, May 2019 proclamation. Whereas our city is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster, and whereas our confidence in the structure integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safety construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, play. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas no code, no confidence, the theme of the Building Safety Month 2019 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2019 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment and recognizes that the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us local and states building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and fire agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore I, Frank M. Rabel, Mayor of the City of Franklin, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage all citizens to join with their communities in participation of Building Safety Month activities. Signed, Mayor and the test clerk.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt said proclamation?
So moved.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
And aye. We have adopted the Building Safety Week proclamation. Thank you all very much. The Finance Budget Amendment 2019-14, Ms. Jarrett.
Thank you. As you all will recall, City Manager Martin included money in the current budget to participate in the shared services analysis of our wastewater treatment plant, and that's when we were considering possibly joining a water and sewer authority with Southampton County. Because of the slip lining that's occurred with the City of Franklin sewer system, the volumes at our wastewater treatment plant have significantly decreased, and that discussion regarding an authority was put on hold. There was only one invoice associated with the Shared Services Authority in this current fiscal year, and what this budget amendment does is move the funds from that line item and puts them back into the capital line item, that would allow us to put that money to work and slip line our sewer system. So we're not going to use the money because that discussion is currently on pause with Southampton County, and this transfer would allow us to utilize the money to slip line and repair our system, which is the very thing that caused the improvement to the wastewater treatment plant. So staff's here if there are any technical questions about this budget amendment, but that summarizes the transfer.
Questions? Any desired action of council?
I make a motion that we adopt the amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt Budget Amendment 2019-14. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. That motion carries. Thank you very much. Get into old and new business. The first is a public hearing on the sale of the Camp Family Homestead. Before I open the public hearing, I'll give Ms. Jarrett an opportunity to tee that one up for us.
Yes, sir. As we have discussed previously, the city of Franklin owns the Camp Family Home Place. That property is situated on 2.2 acres and it's located at 221 Homestead Road. The property is listed on the Virginia Landmarks Register and the National Register of Historic Places. The property is subject to an easement in perpetuity granted to the Commonwealth of Virginia, Virginia Board of Historic Resources for the purposes of preserving the historic and architectural features of the house. The city has identified no future use for this property and has directed staff to move forward with the process to sell the house. So the first step in that process is to conduct tonight's public hearing. Upon the conclusion of the public hearing, you can authorize staff to move forward with the sale of the house. If that were to occur, then city staff would issue an RFP to obtain real estate services and list the house for sale.
Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing on the sale of the Camp Family Homestead. Is there anyone who would like to speak to that issue? Is there anyone who would like to speak on the sale of the Camp Family Homestead? Is there anyone who would like to speak on the sale of the Camp Family Homestead? Having no one speak, I will close the public hearing and ask council, is there any desired action?
I make a motion that we move forward in allowing staff to prepare for sale of the property.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
As far as selling the property, how will it be listed as far as real estate agents and so forth?
So what I would like to do is work with city staff to put together an RFP requesting proposals from local real estate agents to provide a proposal to the city on how they would market the property, what commission would be required, and then we evaluate those proposals. That way anyone who's interested will have an opportunity to submit a proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? We'll call for the question. I have a motion and a second and no other discussion. All those in favor of authorizing the city staff to begin the process of selling the Camp Family Homestead, please signify by saying aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. That motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have the public hearing for the FY 19-20 budget. Again, I'll ask Ms. Jarrett to tee that one up for us.
Thank you. I did put together a brief PowerPoint presentation to go over with you all prior to the public hearing being open. Not everyone has had an opportunity to attend the numerous budget work sessions that you've had, so what I'd like to do is provide a historical perspective that was provided to you all at the budget work sessions, and then go over the items that throughout the work session discussions have been cut from the budget that you have in front of you this evening. So again, with the historical perspective, revenues have grown on average 2.47% over the last 5 years, and that's from FY14 forward to 18. And expenditures have grown on average 1.5%. Transfers from the general fund have grown 3.78% over the last 5 years, and transfers out of the general fund have grown 7% over the last 5 years. And the net change in the fund balance has been negative for the past 3 fiscal years. So going back from 2012 forward, I just want to share with you all how the previous budgets were balanced, to share that with everyone. So in 12-13, there was a planned use, close to $1 million of the debt service reserve, and then $337,000 was used from the fund balance. At that point, firefighter additional positions were delayed. There was some discussion about passing merchant fees on to the customers. That did not occur. Roof repairs were delayed. Employees were required to take a minimum of 1 furlough day, and there was a recommended 5-cent tax increase that year. And then when you move forward in 2013, 2014, again, close to $700,000 of your debt service reserve was used. Close to $700,000 from your fund balance was used. And the tax rate was set at 90 cents with no rate increase recommended. And just for those who may have a question, the debt service reserve was created after International Paper closed their facility. You all took the steps to refinance certain debt that the city had, which created this debt service reserve and allowed you to utilize those funds to balance the budget. And then in 2014-15, $927,000 was used from the debt service reserve, a smaller transfer from the fund balance that year. And this is the year that there was an 8% decrease in property values due to a reassessment year, and you needed 7.4 cents just to remain revenue neutral. This year is also the year that you were hit with a $280,000 increase in your costs associated with being a member of the Western Tidewater Regional Jail. So 17 cents was needed to cover your costs and be revenue neutral, and 6 cents was approved. So then moving forward in 15-16, again, the debt service reserve was utilized as well as transfers from the fund balance. And then this is the year that it's the first year that an operational subsidy was transferred from the solid waste fund, and then an operational subsidy was transferred from the water and sewer fund. And the manager at that time recommended 9 cents and 3 cents were approved. And just for everyone's information, so the enterprise funds that we have do a payment in lieu of taxes. They also pay a cost allocation, which is their cost that they pay for city services that they utilize, such as the finance department, utility billing, those sorts of things. So these operational subsidy transfers are over and above those amounts. Then in 2016-17, moving forward again, close to $500,000 from the fund balance. Building repairs that were estimated to cost approximately $1.1 million were delayed. A revenue neutral tax rate would have been an increase of 1 cent. That did not occur. The tax rate was held at 99 cents. And then again, you see the operational subsidies from the solid waste fund and the water and sewer fund. In 2017-18, again, the transfer from the fund balance at $508,000, and then the transfers from the various enterprise funds. And then the 2018-2019 fiscal year, $560,000 was approved from fund balance, $286,000 used from water, sewer, and solid waste, and then $677,000 was used in vacancy savings across all departments. The real estate rate was held flat. 2% raises were given to management, and 2% raises were given to city employees. 1% raises were given to management level staff. And then also last year, there was a 24% increase in the health insurance cost that was absorbed by the city with no revenue stream to back it. The actual increase to the health insurance cost was close to 30%, and the city absorbed 24% of that increase. So again, looking at a historical perspective, this shows your tax rate from 2009 forward. In a number of these years, there were real estate decreases in the values, and the rate was still held steady. So this is a comparison of some of our neighbors. Some additional localities were added in based on some questions that I received from you all. So you can see where we rate compared to some of our neighbors to the east and the west in terms of real estate, personal property, meals, and lodging. So what's been discussed, this shows an impact to the property owner based on the value of their real estate. So if they owned a home valued at $100,000, if the tax rate were increased 4 cents, it'd be $40 increase to them over the year. And if it were increased 6 cents, it'd be $60. And you can see the increase, again, based on the value of the home. And these are just estimates we pulled to show you the impact to the property owner. So at our last meeting, we discussed that we were waiting on a few things. We did receive this in time for the ad to run, but the workers' compensation insurance did increase 8.6%. That's based on our history, and the regular general and property insurance increased 6.4%. So where did we start this year? General fund revenues were estimated at $22.5 million. Total expenditure requests were $24.5 million. That left us a gap of $1.9 million. And I'd like to point out that the proposed general fund budget that you have in front of you is a decrease of $635,000 or 2.6% below your current budget that we're operating under today. So what has been cut out of the budget? We've frozen 3 positions in the police department. We've frozen the part-time animal control position, and the captain's position will be eliminated effective June 30th. The fire department has had 3 positions frozen. We did previously pay a stipend to the volunteer firefighters that pulled a shift, and that payment to the volunteers has been eliminated. And then we will replace 3 obsolete radios a year instead of 5. In the dispatching department, we've frozen 2 positions, and we're changing the terms currently that a part-time employee is working under. In the Commissioner of the Revenue Department, there was an opportunity for us to have a DMV select position possibly, but that's been cut from the budget as well as all the associated needs with that position. The Treasurer's Office has cut various expenses. The Parks and Recreation Department, they had requested 2 positions that had previously been in the budget years ago. Those are not recommended to be filled. We've cut the swimming lessons that had been proposed. We've cut the repairs to the building that's out at Armory Field that we discussed was damaged last year in the freezing weather that we had. We're going to cut that out. We've cut office supplies, some of the daycare scholarships for Summer Jam. And we're freezing the athletic specialist position. Mr. Hyatt left us several weeks ago, so that position's been frozen. And in lieu of filling that full-time position, we're suggesting hiring a part-time seasonal employee. That individual would pick up trash at city parks and cut the fields during game seasons. In the finance department, we've frozen the payroll clerk position. And in public works, we have, as we discussed, the electrical panel at the public works department is in desperate need of upgrade, but we've cut that upgrade. We've cut the emergency building repair fund, which is where you went if there were significant repairs needed to any city building. That's been eliminated. We've cut funds for replacement of dead trees and bushes throughout the city. We've cut the courtesy car at the Franklin Regional Airport, which falls under Public Works. We've eliminated the 1 position at the Franklin Regional Airport. We've eliminated a position at the city garage, and we're eliminating 1 custodian. So those are positions that are currently have an employee in them that will no longer be available after June 30th. And for those that weren't in attendance at the work session earlier tonight, just for the purposes of the public, we have figured out a way to sell fuel at the Franklin Regional Airport Monday through Friday while the airport is open. That will be available. It will be different, and the airport manager has submitted his retirement effective June 20th. In community development, they've cut computer purchases and various office equipment. The city attorney has cut continuing education. He was able to do that this fiscal year instead of paying for it next fiscal year. And the IT department has deferred equipment purchases and network upgrades for the city's network. So there will be no cost of living increase in any department. The city, as I mentioned to you at one of the work sessions, we did receive a 3% decrease in our health insurance costs this year. 2% of that savings will be passed on to city employees, and the city will retain 1% of those savings. That's based on council feedback. And these other 2, the Christmas bonus is being added back and the employee event being added back based on council feedback. So there's been extensive discussion regarding school funding, and based on work session discussions, it's in the current proposed budget to level fund the schools. Agencies and organizations, they were all put back to their FY17 levels, other than 2 exceptions. Paul DeCamp Community College is the only organization that has an increase, and that's based on the new per capita formula that the college is utilizing, and then the Downtown Franklin Association was cut by $35,000. And another item, the credit card fees have been discussed at length. That's projected to yield a savings of $80,000 in the current budget. So in terms of CIP requests, the majority of the CIP requests were removed from the budget. We are in need of an engine 3 replacement, and so what's been proposed is to lease a fire truck at $60,000 per year at 4.25%. Southampton County banks funds that we can use for capital purchases because we serve a portion of the county, and so we can utilize those funds. It's our understanding we can utilize those funds for the first 2 years of the lease payment. For the Medic 2, we included a grant match. We are going to pursue a grant for that, but the funding to purchase it has not been included in the budget. With regards to the generator, we've included funding for a grant match, but not to outright purchase. And you can see below we included a grant match for the USDA grant should we obtain one for a police car. And then because of the safety issue it brings about, the Armory Drive recreational park lighting was included. As you'll recall, the poles have been said to be structurally unsound, and so this would allow us to finance the replacement of those poles. So with all of those cuts being made, in order to close the gap, it still needed a 4-cent tax increase that would take the rate to $1.03. That generates just over $220,000, and that's based on a 98.5% collection rate. Also recommended was to increase the meals tax by 0.5%. That generates just over $70,000. And then we reduced the transfers. What was included in the initial draft budget that I had rolled out was $395,000 transferred from the water and sewer fund and $400,000 from the electric department fund, but that was with the caveat that this would be the last year we were able to do that. And so the council direction was to go back and make cuts to reduce those transfers. And so that's what's in the advertised budget, to reduce the transfer from the water and sewer enterprise fund to $195,000 and reduce the transfer from the electric department from $400,000 to just over $200,000. And then increase the cigarette tax by 10 cents. And one of the reasons, and I didn't include this as a bullet on the slide, and I should have, one of the reasons that there's not a suggested transfer from the fund balance is because your required policy, your adopted policy requires you to maintain a 15% minimum fund balance, and you're at that level. So you can't include, as outlined had been done in previous years to a large degree, that way to balance the budget is not available to you this year. So with regards to the electric department, this will be the third year in a row that there will be no increases to the City of Franklin retail rate for power. And this is only possible because management of the electric department has agreed to freeze 4 positions within that department. So that allows us to not increase the retail rate, even though the rate at which we purchase power will increase. The fuel adjustment reduction was just received this past week and will be effective in the May billing cycle. We discussed that at Franklin Power and Light's budget work session, but this is a Excel sheet that shows what the impact to the residential customer will be. So for example purposes, if someone were to use 1,000 kilowatt hours, which that's the basis of which most comparisons are made of, the average bill as of July 1st, 2018 was $128.39. What we had projected it would be with the fuel adjustment was $125.39, but what it actually will be is $124.62. So there's about a $4 decrease for a power customer because of the fuel adjustment. What we have learned is that most individuals use about 1,300 kilowatt hours, and Mr. Blau went over this in his budget work session, so you see that comparison as well. And again, it equates to about a $4 reduction. And again, that fuel adjustment is a pass-through. So what's next? Tonight you'll hold the public hearing and you'll hear from the public, and then you're scheduled to adopt the budget on May 13th at your regular council meeting. That would adopt the budget, you would set the tax rates, and then you would adopt the budget resolutions that include the categorical listing of Franklin City Public Schools and the electric rates. So that's the history that I wanted to provide. I'm happy to answer any questions, or we can wait until the conclusion of the public hearing, whatever is your pleasure.
Why don't we get on with the public hearing, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions, okay? Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
With that being said, I will open the public hearing for the FY 19-20 budget. Let's try to have an organized approach to this as best we can. So what I'll do is ask if anybody would like to speak. If you would, raise your hand. We'll try to make sure I call on you as quickly as I can, and then we'll go from there. Is that okay with everyone? We'll try that. So with the public hearing being open, is there anyone who would like to speak about the FY 19-20 budget? I think I saw Dan first. Come on up, state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, distinguished council, city manager, city attorney. My name is Dan Howe. I'm the executive director of the DFA. I reside at 100 Gillette Court, and I've been a resident of Franklin for over 35 years. First thing, I just would be remiss if I didn't take the time to just say a few points. One is I really appreciate the support, the confidence, and the hard work of the DFA volunteer board, and it is a volunteer board. Many other DFA volunteers, my dedicated part-time office manager, Ann Ferguson, who works very diligently at her job, the downtown Franklin businesses and property owners, and businesses throughout our community that acknowledge and support the positive impact that the DFA has. Their hard work, their support of all our activities has been vital in the past, and it's vital to us in order to visit and reach our vision and mission for our community. I also want to thank all the citizens and patrons of our community and our surrounding communities, because it's with their support of events and activities and our local business that help us thrive over the last years. I especially want to thank my wife. It's on my wife, Betty, but you know, Betty has stood beside me, and she volunteers her time as well. I think sometimes the only way Betty gets to see me is come to one of my events. I want to thank city staff, because they've been very instrumental in a lot of the things we do. I want to thank City Council, past and present, for the support they've provided the Downtown Franklin Association. And above all, I'd like to thank God for giving me the strength, the health, and the talent to serve you and our community and express my passion for this wonderful community.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak? Okay.
Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, council members, Mrs. Jarrett and Mr. Williams. At the risk of creating an echo, I'm here to speak on behalf of the DFA and address some of the concerns we have with this proposed budget. The DFA's cut, the cut DFA would suffer would be about 64% of what the city directly provided to the DFA. We certainly acknowledge and appreciate the fiscal reality and the tough job that the City Council has. But we just want to stress a few things that we have done and make sure that's clear to the board. To City Council here. We have had 6 new businesses open up as part of Startup Downtown Franklin programs. Since 2017, 30 additional businesses have either expanded or begun in downtown Franklin. we've issued 37 grants, over $27,000, assisting downtown businesses with security systems, awnings, new windows, repairs. We've refurbished over 40 planters, admittedly with a good deal of volunteer help. We've completed 2 more murals, and we hope to at some point have more. We have a good deal of co-op advertising between all of our businesses. In addition, it's not just the businesses we help. We provide a great deal of services to citizens of Franklin. We have our We Be Jammin' concert series downtown, which has been free to every person in Franklin as long as I've remember it being here. We have the Fall Festival. We have the Market on Main. We have Halloween trick-or-treat downtown, Christmas open houses. All of that, they provided with pretty limited amount of funds from City Council. DFA's funding, as you all know, comes from 2 separate sources: a pass-through tax assessed just on downtown businesses, and additional funding from the city. We've also worked to obtain a good deal of grants, both state and federal, but those grants are usually earmarked for a specific project. We can't use them however we want, which I'm sure is a problem you also encounter on a regular basis. But to be clear, a good deal of these programs will be substantially reduced or even cease to exist, including our startup program, some of our co-op advertising, our free family activities that we offer downtown. And I think it's also worth noting that the total budget of the DFA, even at last year's funding, represented 0.2% or less than 0.2% of the City of Franklin's budget. We hope that this council acknowledges that we are indeed part of a solution rather than a problem for the city. And again, we appreciate that it's not an easy task that you have, and we know that. But we look forward to your full consideration on these budget matters and to continue to serve downtown Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak on the 1920 budget? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, esteemed City Council, Ms. Chair, Mr. Williams. My name is Bobby Tyler. I live at 112 Queens Lane. Several weeks ago, I, along with others, spoke to you about the proposed cuts for the Main Street program and their budget. We've had folks stand up here and tell you that you cut it about 64%. I ask you all to please, if you needed to raise taxes, to please fully support this critically important program. For tonight's meeting, I had asked what should our message be. It was suggested that I share the value. That value has been shared time and time again. And I'm fearful. I'm fearful that even though we have that value, it's quantifiable, it's identifiable, and you can all see it. It's not making any difference. When I talk to you from a planning perspective, we consider Franklin as a destination location. That destination is Main Street. There is no other. Planners know this, and that a strong, thriving downtown is absolutely essential for every successful community. When I told you that every city council since 1985 has without fail supported the Main Street program, I asked what happened. What concerns me the most, and that is I and scores of volunteers that just last year donated over 2,000 hours of their time to make our Main Street and our community a better place will never understand what happened. I'm afraid that they'll never know how you came to this decision. I am fearful that when these discussions are held, we'll never know what was said, who said it, why it was said. This was cloaked in secrecy under personnel discussions while in the darkness of a closed session. I understand that this is a dumpster fire budget, but I can tell you that Main Street did not contribute to it. Main Street has consistently been mindful of their resources. They have always been part of the solution and never part of the problem. To withdraw your full support, in my opinion, is a mistake. I ask you to please reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on behalf of the 1920 proposed budget?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members, Ms. Jarrett and Taylor Williams. My name is Jim Hart. I reside at 24576 Delaware Road, Cortland. But I'm also a lifelong resident of Franklin until 3 years ago. But I'm an investor in Franklin. I've invested my life in Franklin. I'm a property owner downtown Franklin, and I've been a volunteer of a lot of organizations trying to support our area. I'll go back in time. The JCs used to put on a Christmas parade years ago, and there was a time a few years ago when we didn't have a Christmas parade for 3 years. And it was brought back in, and the city took it over, and people look forward to that. It's just one little item that might go away. The citizens look forward to that, and we need to keep our citizens downtown Franklin. But I want to talk about the $35,000, 64% of a budget that's going away. We finally got Franklin going again. Dan Hive has worked tirelessly. His volunteers have worked tirelessly. I've been a volunteer on a few things with him, and I've seen the energy that he expels into the commitment for his job. I wouldn't have his job. When I was in the JCs, I helped put on little concerts at the Ronco Club to raise money for our community. He puts on a concert every Thursday night during the summer. That's a job. He doesn't get paid anything compared to what the effort he goes into that one project, not to mention the other things. But if you take this money away, you're taking money away that we've all invested as property owners and business people downtown Franklin. I was here in 1985 when Kim Kimbrough came in and we voted in the Virginia Main Street program. And we voluntarily, as property owners in Franklin, established a 25 cents per 100 additional tax for that area, a special tax district. And since 1985, well over $1 million has been committed and paid voluntarily to support downtown Franklin, in addition to the other revenues that's been generated. And all of a sudden, just come in here and just cut it off at its knees just doesn't seem to be fair. Franklin has finally gotten things going. I remember as a little boy coming downtown riding a bicycle. It was vibrant. And now we created a parking problem. I know we got a little small parking problem. We addressed it in the last meeting. But what a great problem to have, having a parking problem downtown Franklin. I mean, just the other day, I went to go get a haircut, and I had to park a block away. Great. I'm glad to see that. And Franklin is finally starting to see where things are moving along. And when your garden starts growing, you don't stop watering it. It needs to be nurtured. And if you stop watering it, it dies. It's going to take a long time to get it back. I've been in the real estate business here since 1977. I've seen times when you put a for sale sign in downtown Franklin, couldn't give it away. Now, put a for sale sign in a property in Franklin, it's gone in a week. Because people want to invest in Franklin. They like downtown. Downtowns are coming back across the country, and we're no different. We're getting people to relocate from other areas within the county and the city to downtown, from other neighboring cities. They're looking to invest in our area and move here and bring their businesses. We may not have that if we get away from our DFA, our volunteers who are working so hard to make it happen. So as long as we can continue as our people, our own little private sector here, kicking our money into it, we ask you all to kick your money into it too. But that was our agreement in 1985. And I don't think it's time to back out of that agreement. I think it's time to keep moving forward. We've kept this going through all the bad times, and now we're in some good times. Let's keep it going a little bit. I know the budget's not a good time, but it's a good time in downtown Franklin. And I thank all the efforts, all the volunteers, but I thank Dan Howe. And I thank his wife Betty too, because I know she's been there through thick and thin with him too. And she deserves a lot of credit too. But thank you all, and I hope you'll really reconsider keeping this budget for downtown Franklin and supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone? Right, please.
Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Chatham, City Attorney, Council, and City Manager. I didn't come here tonight prepared to talk, and I'm not here with figures to throw at you. I'm here as a little girl that grew up in this town. I'm 80-some years old. I've been here when it was a hustling, bustling little village. And it grew. And we've had disasters. And I thought the end was here. I left Franklin in 1967. I lived in big cities. I've traveled the world. But I came back. I came back to my hometown. And then disaster struck. I thought, what have I done? And in the last 2 years, we have begun to grow. We have begun to become the village. We have become what I had envisioned, frankly. Are you going to throw it all away? If you do away with DFA and Mr. Howe and his assistant, it's all over. We're not going to continue to grow. We don't have anybody walking the streets out there trying to get us to grow. So are you all willing to do that to our town, to our village, to our home? Think about it. Mr. Rabel, I remember you as a toddler. Lived on top of Fred. My family grew up here. And here we are, cutting the one thing that can help us to grow and to become a community that could. The little train that could, we can once again be a community that could. Let's be that. Let's work together. Let's be a community. Let's become one. And as I said, I don't have any figures to give you. I just am bringing my heart to you to tell you, please think long and hard before you shut this town down again. I beg you, I pray for you. I know these are hard times. I know these are hard decisions. But I pray God will bless us and we will become a community that could and will grow, and we will do it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rabel, we didn't get her name.
I know. Well, I'm sorry, we did not get her name. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Haskell. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about the budget?
Good evening, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, City Council members, City Manager, Ms. Jarrett, City Attorney, Mr. Williams. My name is Will Hart. I reside at 502 D Lee Street, Franklin, Virginia, 23851. I can't tell you how many countless hours the volunteers have put in for the DFA, the Downtown Franklin Association. I know there's been a few people that have already spoken on behalf of them, but I myself volunteer, multiple people volunteer in the community, and to take that budget out of there, like I said, I don't have any numbers for you, but to take that budget, you're not just taking away from the Downtown Franklin Association and what Franklin provides, you're also taking away from the residents of Franklin. Not only do they put in for the Weeby Jam and the Franklin Christmas Parade, like everybody else has said prior, but it would just be difficult and terrible to take that money away from them. I know y'all have a tough time with the fiscal budget. Not only them, but the Parks and Rec, to cut into them. They do a phenomenal job bringing in different events and, you know, Boys and Girls Club. I know Mr. Davis, Miss Bailey, and all them that have put in their countless hours. You know, it's just the kid, what they do for the kids and the youth in the community is phenomenal as well. Also, our first responders, to cut into their budget. It's just, we can't thank the first responders for what they do enough. The EMS, the fire department, police officers. Just, if y'all can, just do what y'all can, but please don't take away from those that help the community and benefit the community. And I know I speak from multiple people in the community. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the 1920 proposed budget?
Again, Rick Cannon, 112 Page Street, Franklin, Virginia. Ms. Garrett, that was a wonderful presentation. That answered most of my questions except one. There was no mention about the trash collection fee, if it's going up, staying or down. I would like to answer that. Also, I hear a lot of people talking about downtown, and I guess we got to find another source of revenue in order to help those people. I go through these shopping centers, and there's so many empty stores, and they tell me, the owners say they make just as much off the empty store than they do have tenants in there. I think this would be an excellent time to have a public discussion about some form of vacancy tax. Now, whether the time is now or not, I don't know, but those extra funds could help some of these other people, like downtown, be able to get the revenue streams that they need. And I think it's a time to have an open discussion about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the 1920 proposed budget? Nope. That's my rule. We'll give you plenty of time to speak all you want to speak. We're not putting anybody on the clock, but I think once is enough. Does anyone else like to speak on the 1920 proposed budget? For the third time and final time, is there anyone who would like to speak on the 1920 proposed budget? If not, we will close the public hearing, and then we will have open discussion with council. Okay? All right. Anybody have anything to say? Want to say? At this point in time.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing, a couple things that jumped out at me. I certainly understand the passion that the people that have spoken exhibit, but a couple things I just want to make sure people are clear on. There was a statement made about the cloak and dagger of going into closed session. I want to make sure people understand that when we go behind closed doors, we talk about the things that we go into closed session for. We certify that we do that, and there's a gentleman right down here that if we even talk about the weather, he gives us a hard time about staying on subject matter of what we're allowed to talk about. So there's no cloak and dagger of things going on behind closed doors that we're not supposed to be talking about, which is personnel. And we do go behind closed doors to talk about personnel, but we don't go into the other parts of that. So I want to make sure that's clear and upfront. I guess the other thing is, I've had several people, I normally don't hear from very many people when I'm sitting up here, but I've heard from several people about this. And we are cutting from almost every department. So I guess my question back to you is, I'm a CPA and I try to look at numbers, but I need a little help. So if you catch me on the street, don't tell me what not to cut. Tell me we're going to get the money to pay it. That's what we need help with. And this is not a sarcastic, this is the problem that we're faced with. We don't have the money to pay all the bills that we have to pay. Ms. Jarrett didn't give the whole picture. I think we're still $500,000 down from when the mill closed. We put on 9 new firemen because when the mill closed, our volunteers all went to work in other places and were not available to the fire department. So we had to hire 9 EMS folks, if I'm not mistaken, 9 EMS folks to put in Franklin and Hunterdale to be able to meet the calls. And we've had insurance increases, and we've had very few tax increases other than the ones that were neutral with a decrease in the values. We have to go up just to be neutral. So we have the same amount of money that we had the previous year. And we're very diligent on the budget. I understand everybody's frustration. I'm as frustrated as anybody in this audience. And I'm not saying what we're going to do. I'm just pointing out, if somebody said, how did we get here? That's how we got here. We've had increases and we've not had tax increases. We've had increases in personnel that we had to have. We've had increases in our costs, and we have not passed them on. If you listen to that PowerPoint presentation, there were several times the recommended number of what we needed to raise the taxes was higher than what we actually made. And that's how we got into the position that we're in now, trying to put off as long as we could tax increases. Well, now we're here. So I just kind of throw out what my thoughts were.
Okay. Anybody else?
You can go ahead.
Anybody?
Yeah, well,
Mr. Johnson?
no, you can go ahead first. No.
Well, just a couple of points. First of all, I want to thank people who came and spoke, and those of you who came to witness this. This is the process we need. We have budget workshops. We have met, 5 or 6 times. We've put in a bunch of hours on this thing. The stuff or the information that Ms. Jarrett shared with you has been shared with us on numerous occasions. You know, if you're interested, there are times they're posted when we have workshops. Workshops or give and take opportunities where we listen to department heads. We have an opportunity to discuss. So it's open. It's open to the public. We would appreciate your coming, but I do appreciate the civility of everybody tonight. And I appreciate your passion for what you're doing. The one thing that you need to understand, and just so you don't, in case you don't, the special tax is not going away. The special tax is there. The 24 cents goes to DFA. Where we're cutting is in the operational side of it, okay, that we support. We're obligated under the agreement from 1985 to support with the tax, special tax area. So we do that. That's not being cut, okay? I want everybody to understand that. And it's, you know, this has been a tough budget, but if you looked at Ms. Jarrett's number, we're still about 8 cents below what the recommendations were from the city manager over the past, 5-6 years. We've got to do it, we've got to catch up somehow. Now, we haven't approved anything at this point in time. These are all conceptual at this point, so just want everybody to be aware of that. But again, I appreciate everybody coming out, and I appreciate the way you conducted yourselves. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to echo what Mr. Burgess and the mayor has said. Operating a city, as you know, is not easy. As I listened to all of the comments that were made tonight, and basically, we need you in the workshops as well before we get to a budget hearing that would ease the situation. Now, we have a city, as you know, in the Commonwealth that the state is controlling for the last several years. And the state is still controlling that city because a city cannot go out of business. A township can. But I think Franklin became a city, I think on the back of the wall that says 1876 to 1861.
1961.
1961, okay. You know, my say, you know. So, but basically, when it became a city, the whole dynamics of Franklin changed. That meant you had to meet state regulations, federal regulations, and move forward as doing business as a city. And that's what we want to do with the restructuring. If taxes had been added before, we wouldn't be where we are now. Well, that's water under the bridge. What we must do is come together as a city and work these things out. I believe we can. I know we can. And I worked with Mr. Howell with DFA, Christmas parade, different other occasions, and the volunteers, they put a lot of energy into it. I feel if there is any way that we can do something, I'm sure the council will do something. But basically, we have to look at the total picture and work forward for success as a city so we don't fall below the requirements of a city and become penalized by the state. And I think we haven't finished yet, but we have faith in you, and I know you have faith in us to do the right thing. So that's what we plan to do. Wish I could wave a magic wand and no one was cut. But that's not good business. You're not always popular when you do good business. But it's all about business, and that's what we must do to survive as a city. And we will survive by doing the right thing.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. I look out and I know most of you, and I feel what you're saying. I don't know where we'll be at the end of this budget. It has been extremely hard. It's been hard for me to sit up here on this seat for the last 2 years, to be honest with you. Seen so many things that we've had to do and things we talk about that have to take so long to happen. I'm not used to that in my world. When I run a business, we make it happen the same day most of the time. But what's being done and the cuts that are being made has been said multiple times tonight. It's not because it's wanted to be done. It is a need. Actually, we're in a critical situation. If I was sponsoring something through my company as a business, and I was having a tough year and I had to look at everybody I had to hit, I wouldn't know where to start because every association and every organization throughout this city and this county brings value to it, back to all of us. Sometimes you have to reduce as you go along for a year, and the next year you might come back twofold and build it back up. So cutting people's jobs, even cutting a job right now might be a result of what a decision we might have to make to put money back into an association. That's how serious this budget is. It is horrible. I asked a question a few weeks back, can a local government shut down like the federal government and take a break and look at things? That's how bad the situation is, and I know y'all sitting here, you don't see it. We've seen it. We've had work session after work session. We might have one, maybe two citizens sitting in the session to even come listen and bring back added value. We missed that, and I'll echo on what Mayor Rabel said. We need it. We would appreciate it. There's no ego in sitting up here on my behalf, I can tell you that, because I'd a whole lot rather be home. But I feel for this city as a whole. I was born and raised here. My family lives here, my children, and I'll keep fighting for what we can to make it the best it could be. If there's any way possible to do anything to help the city, this council is trying. So I do appreciate all of you, and that's my spill on it. Thank you.
Nobody else wants to speak?
Let you go. If you'd like to go.
No, I'd like to listen to my...
No, I'd rather for you to go. If you want to. You don't need to be last. That is.
No, really last. Well, I'm no stranger to being the odd man out. Most people in here know me. And you know that I have been advocating for the people since I was elected. I like to say elections have consequences. I don't agree with the cuts that we're making. I don't blame Ms. Jarrett. She's new to this position, and the first place people usually go are raising taxes and making cuts. And she's doing, I think, in my opinion, she's doing a great job. I don't place any blame on Ms. Copeland, who's brand new to this council, or, for that matter, Mr. Cutchins. It's my opinion we've had two accountants on this council. We're fortunate. Many cities don't have accountants on the council. A citizen came tonight and said, how did we get in this situation? I asked that very same question. People write me off oftentimes, I'm the crazy one. We had poor fiscal management, in my opinion. I sit up here all the time, I'm the lone vote when they want to approve something like a $200,000 generator. Nay, we can't afford it. When we want to put a $5,000 for a lock on the front door, we can't afford it. Nay. So I'm always the lone guy. So tonight makes no difference, I'm still. I don't think that we need to cut the $35,000 from DFA, since that's what seems to be on a lot of people's minds that are here tonight. I think there are plenty other places that we do need to make cuts. But who's willing to look at their friend that they're sitting next to and say, well, let's cut your position or cut into your money? Nobody wants to, and this council don't want to do it either. I heard the city manager read off cuts tonight, and one of them was a custodian. How much is that custodian? But yet we have employees that are in hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, but over $100,000. I said we have to spend according to our city. We're not a large city. We can't spend like we are Suffolk. They have 80,000 citizens. We have 8,000. I've been crying about the highest trash rates that have been imposed upon our citizens. I made a motion to stop. They wanted to start putting fines on people for parking downtown. No. You don't have a movie theater. You don't have a Chick-fil-A. You don't have a Bank of America. You don't have a SunTrust. But yet, we need to raise your taxes. If you want to know how to squeeze $1 out of 15 cents, ask somebody that's poor, that knows and finds a way to make it. We live way outside our means. I will not, in good conscience, all I have, I'm not a rich man. All I have is my word. And I will not vote to raise your taxes as long as we're taking money from the DFA, who provides Weeby Jammin' and different things like that, but yet we've got money to pay employees outrageous salaries, and we won't touch them. I've talked about, in closed session, I've talked about employees that we might consider, and it was as silent as it is in here now. Nobody want to touch them. Big time, getting paid big money. So, elections have consequences. When you put people in positions that want to live at their level and spend at their economic level, instead of being considerate of yours or the poor, some philosophers said, you want to judge a society, look at how they treat their poor. We're talking about, when we were reading over the proposed gap, close the gap, one of the largest places that you had the most bullets were in recreation. Children. The children are our future. If we don't provide for our children, I'm 60 years old. I'm going to be a senior soon, and many of you may have already reached there. These children are going to be the ones taking our places. We want to cut money from the kids. We want to cut money from the entertainment the DFA provides and the programs that they provide. But yet we won't touch people who are making over $100,000. I will not vote to raise your taxes because I don't think that we're willing to make the hard decisions that need to be made. If you have a business selling bunny rabbits, and it costs you $20 to operate that business, and you're only making $10, how can you stay in business? And there are many entities in our city that do that. They cost us more than we make, a lot more than we make. But because they're special to somebody, mostly on our council, then we don't mess with them. That's wrong. That's wrong. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, for standing up for DFA. I just wish that more people stood up for more things. I wish there were people out there talking about this proposed budget that were in objection to what's happening in the recreation department, who's in objection to what's happening in public safety. I heard about those firefighters that we funded. Who wants to cut them when their house is on fire? To me, there are no greater heroes than our firefighters. They go to the danger. So therefore, I've run out of my time. But I just want you to know that your elections have consequences. And you cannot grow a city without vision. We need more revenues. We need more businesses. When we can do that, then we don't have to cut departments and raise your taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll tell you why we have had the problems is because we have held taxes to no increases, except for those that are being held neutral over the last 10 years, with the exception of possibly 5 cents, 2 cents that went to the city, 3 cents that went to the schools. That was it. Mr. Cutchin talks about the city moving slow. Ms. Fleming out there used to preach at me all the time that city government always moves at glacial speed. And it does. And I have to always keep that in mind because I'm like most people. I'm in the outside world and we have to do it now. We have cut expenses over the years to help keep those taxes down. We have worked hard at it. Mr. Burgess and I have spent many a Memorial Day sitting down going through the budgets, working, trying to get things evened out. Some of us on this council want to talk about we need to cut this or cut that and high-prize people. This is the first year they've made over half of the budget work sessions. They haven't been at any of the other ones for the last 8 years. So, yeah, we've worked very hard to keep these things down. Very hard. Mr. Burgess, Mr. Meckler, I'm talking. Thank you. And we can continue to do it. I will say that we talked about 2 different options, the DFA or City Council cutting their pay. Some of us up in City Council were willing to, some were not. DFA was the last one that I can remember that got a cut to it. We looked at every place else. We've cut every place else before we had hit here. We will continue to work hard and to try to keep our taxes down as low as possible in the area and still provide overall service to everybody. And that's the function of City Council, is looking at the city as a whole. DFA is an integral part of the city, and we understand that. But we ask you to please work along with us, and this year that's going to be a little difficult. Last year we said it's the last time we can go to the well, and it is. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank y'all. And I think everybody's said what they wanted to say, so we will now go to the Edmonds update. Ms. Jarrett. Thank y'all for coming here, leaving.
Yes, sir. So the test bills have been sent to BMS for review, and we're waiting on those returns to verify that billing is correct. We should know that within 48 hours. Once that has been verified as correct, we'll do supplement billing on those supplements that have been withheld due to the conversion.
Ms. Jerry, can we hold up just a minute and let
Yes.
the folks leave and that would like to leave, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you would like to excuse yourself, please excuse yourself. Sorry for the interruption, Ms. Jarrett, if you
No
would.
problem.
You may want to restart, reload, okay?
Sure. So test bills have been sent to BMS for review, and we're waiting on those to be returned to us to ensure that billing will be correct. We should know that within 48 hours, and once that occurs, then we'll issue our supplement bills that have been on hold due to the software conversion. The issues are being addressed by Edmonds as needed. The response has been good. Again, weekly calls are being held and weekly training sessions for city staff. We did have a file transfer data issue with the nuisance liens on how bills are being processed and how liens are being attached to bills, so that's in the process of being resolved. And Edmonds is also working on our monthly reports for meals tax and lodging tax, so we should have an update on that this week as well. We are hopeful to have an update about the online billing portal, and when that will be available, hopefully by the next city council meeting. The request to build it was submitted after the treasurer's presentation to you all. And so that's all I have for the Edmonds update, unless there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. City manager's report, Ms. Jarrett.
Yes. So I am pleased to report that the Director of Human Resources did report to work today, and she had a fabulous day, and she's coming back tomorrow. So I'm thrilled about that. Because today was her first day, she will be here at our May 13th meeting to meet all of you, and we'll have an official introduction then. But she hit the ground running, and I'm really excited about her. A police chief candidate was interviewed on April 19th, and I'll have additional follow-up from you all regarding that after additional due diligence is done. And then, as I mentioned earlier, airport manager, Mr. Gray, submitted his retirement effective June 20th, 2019. There are a couple other items I want to update you guys on. Councilman Cheatham and I did attend the HRPDC meeting, and I wanted to make sure that I mentioned for the public a new initiative that's being launched by the Planning District Commission, and it's called floodfluent.org. Again, for the purposes of the public, that's called floodfluent.org, and it's a regional initiative which promotes citizens to obtain flood insurance even though you may be outside of a floodplain area. And so the website has a number of great resources that the public should access about flood insurance, and so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that tonight in this forum. I'd like to discuss this further with you all, but a local nonprofit organization has agreed to coordinate a celebration of the July 4th holiday on July 3rd in conjunction with the car show. So I'll have a follow-up information that I'll share with you for us to discuss it at another time. In some unfortunate news, Mr. Davis and his staff discovered this weekend that the Martin Luther King Center experienced some vandalism, that the windows at the back doors were shot with what appeared to be a BB gun. This has been reported to the police and to our insurance company. It appears to me from the pictures that the windows will have to be replaced, and so that's unfortunate news that we learned today. We have a huge weekend in Franklin this weekend coming up. We have the kickoff to the cruise-in. We have the garden show. There's an event at the YMCA. There's an event at Pauldy Camp Community College. There will be a number of street closures in the city. That map has been made available via social media and hand-delivered to businesses that are impacted by the street closures to support the festival. So we're very excited about all of those events, so please make sure that you attend those. The Mayor's Cup blood drive is scheduled for June 27th from 11 to 3. This is a regional initiative put on by the Red Cross. So again, that's June 27th from 11 to 3 p.m. That'll be held at the Franklin Fire Department. You can make your reservations to give blood at redcrossblood.org to schedule your appointment. So I'd like to make the public aware of that and ask that you support that. And then finally, as a part of my report, I've received over the last few days a number of questions related to the Southampton County Courthouse and what the City of Franklin's obligations are related to that project. I'm currently analyzing the file that is in the city manager's office, and I've reached out to Southampton County for the latest information. I've made copies of the letter that was provided to me today, and I found in the file from Judge Eason that's dated June 23rd, 2017, and I placed a copy of that letter at each of your places. Going back through minutes, I've found that Mr. Johnson presented to City Council on July 10th, 2018 to provide an overview of the 3 concepts that are currently under consideration. Based on my analysis of some of the information that was put out prior to the referendum, some of the concepts that are currently under consideration are slightly different. Based on what I reviewed today, that's been the last formal presentation from the county to the City Council about the concepts that are under consideration. I do understand that the county has an interim financing matter on their agenda this evening. And as you all are aware, this project will have a tremendous impact on the City of Franklin's budget. To date, this question was asked, how much have we spent on the current project? Based on what the finance director put together, we've spent $59,000, just under $60,000 on the project. So I just wanted to make those statements, provide that background, provide that history, again, because of the agreement that was a part of the creation of the city of Franklin becoming a city. You are responsible for the costs associated to maintain the courthouse, but wanted to make sure that I address any questions that have been asked of me and seek your direction if you would like for, because it has been so long since you've had an opportunity to ask questions about the project, or hear a presentation about what's currently being considered, I'm happy to reach out to Mosley Architects or the county to ask them to come to City Council and make a presentation to give you all an opportunity to hear the latest information directly from them and ask any questions that you might have.
That probably is not a bad idea. You know, if we think about, you know, in the next month, you know, maybe at the end of May, in our next May meeting.
Your next meeting's May 13th.
That's right.
So
The next meeting would be on Memorial Day, so the 13th. That's probably a little too quick, but maybe we need to have one. But, you know, I guess we're somewhat handicapped until they make a decision as to what they're going to do and how they're going to approach it, but they can tell us where their options are at this point in time.
it would give you an opportunity to hear the latest information directly from them and then ask your questions and provide any feedback and input that you all have. So I'm happy to make that request if that's the direction
I
from
think that
council.
would be, it seems to be the consensus, so we would go ahead with that.
Great. It is a very large impact to our budget, so I'd like for you all to maintain the latest information and be as informed
I
as
would
possible.
still like to get information finding out, is it a definite must for all the recommendations that Southampton County is trying to do? I understand on the upgrades, but I still want to understand, being our city, condition it's in, is it a must?
You posed that question before,
I have.
and it has not been answered in detail, or I haven't heard the answer. Again, we are assuming things.
Thank you.
And-
That's the word, assuming.
And I'm a little, yes, I'd like to know what's going on with it.
Documentation would be great.
But the sad part about it is we've been left out of any sort of participation in what they do.
Mr. McLemore, just if I may, we had a meeting on July the 10th. Unfortunately, Mr. Cutchins and you weren't here at that meeting when Mr. Johnson came and made a presentation and showed us those options.
I was here when Mr. Johnson made his presentation.
According to the minutes, you were not. I'm just going by what minutes were
Well, I
there.
remember Mr. Johnson making the presentation.
And he's made a couple of them. This was on July the 10th of last year. And he, at that point in time, he went into all of the information about that, but we need to get it again. Mr. Cutchins, and happy to do it.
One response. At that given time, nobody knew the crisis this city was in
I understand.
financially.
I understand.
Okay?
I understand. Not a problem. I understand that. And I think we need to find out, to your point, what obligation, legal obligation we have.
That's all I ask.
And I think Mr. Williams is looking into that too.
Thanks.
And also, I stand corrected, Mr. Mayor, there are two people on the council who were involved in this to a greater degree. I believe that was you and the vice mayor.
No, that was not me and the vice mayor. It was me and the city manager. We were part of the committee. And if you recall, once the referendum failed, the city of Franklin had no more input. We were asked to be a part of the initial information, but we were just part of that committee. It was really if you look at it, it's in the hands of the county. They were kind enough to include us in those discussions, but once the referendum failed, the city is really, based on whatever we find out from a legal obligation, is obligated to whatever the county comes up with. And
Well,
that is
I'm going
true.
to use different words.
That's true, even if it is passed.
That's what I said. That's what I said when you said that Mr. Johnson came and made a presentation. I had just completed saying that we really don't have anything to say about it.
And that became a little bit more clear after the referendum failed on July the 10th when he came to the meeting. But anyway, we'll look into all that. We'll get answers to it.
I'll see if a work session's possible on
Okay.
May 13th.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question about her report. In the county, in the courthouse, you said $60,000 has been spent. Is that our part or is that the total?
That's what we've paid.
That's what we've paid.
Yes, sir. And that's based on an invoice we received February 25th, 2017, another one February 9th, 2018, and then the last one February 6th, 2019, excuse me. And then separately, we had the cost of postage for the informational brochures in FY18. So all of that totals $59,699.37.
And every time I hear them talk, it's 32, we're at 32%, so I'm assuming that's our 32%.
Yeah, that's just our piece.
Our piece. Okay.
Yeah, just so everybody understands, whatever the cost of the courthouse is, we're responsible for 32%. And we have no say.
Right. That's what we're talking.
That's right. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Jarrett?
I think Councilman Johnson will hit on it, but I did attend a meeting today regarding the food bank and a grant project that they're working on with the OPC Foundation. So I'll defer to Mr. Johnson during council
Okay.
boards and commissions unless he'd like for me to add something now.
Oh,
Well, why don't we just go right into it, and then we'll see.
Yeah,
how
yeah,
we go.
you can go right
So we
into
have reports on council staff, reports on boards and commissions. You want to start it off?
okay. We had this morning from 9 to 10:30, the food bank of southeastern Virginia and the Eastern Shore. We launched a food hub project for the city of Franklin and Southampton County that would set up a hub for fresh vegetables, nutrition, and also to deal with other problems that our citizens may have, from jobs to other things, that we'll reach out to different agencies to help them move forward. With the food in the city of Franklin, the food insufficiency is over 20%, and that deals with an economical base as well, but it's over 20%. The total food desert is the terminology that we use, is 27% throughout the area of Franklin and Southampton County. There will be some more information on that, I think, that the Tidewater News will give you later with that. But basically, we have a grant that we went to UVA, not UVA, Old Dominion, the food bank, and myself. We reached out to that, to the OPC Foundation, and we have received a grant of $300,000 for the next 3 years to deal with the food issue in the city. One of the things we're going to increase is the backpack program, food on the weekend as well, and several other for seniors and several other organizations. And we're working to develop a food hub within the area, so the transportation of that, you won't have to come from Norfolk, but it'll be stored right in the area to help feed our citizens as well. So you'll be getting more information with that through social media and the news media as well. And we're also working on another grant with a private entity to match the $300,000 as well.
Okay, thank you.
Next, oh, okay.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. Next is the jail. Do you want to do that, Barry?
I didn't want you to forget it, I wouldn't.
Okay. I arrived the first one there, Barry. I thought it was April Fool. But basically, we had a good meeting. We hired a company to look at the bids for the new parking lot. Delicate Jones responded to our letter to get more funding for the jail. And the Medicare expansion program is working for us. And we're working on a few more things in the jail of medical procedures and so forth. We'll have a reserve, basically, with our funding for the jail. There's a reserve that we can use next year in the budget as well. Secondly, with that, I attended the 60, it was at Regent University last week, all week, the 61st Regional Jail and Sheriff's Conference that was in the area. And we had 2-hour and 4-hour courses on updating on insurance, jail procedures. Also, we had, it was a lot of legal cases as we looked at how the jails could proceed and things to do and not to do. Basically, I have a full list of those that I'll be getting. I have one of the presentations that is coming to me from VML. They did an insurance piece, and they're also coming back here to look at our insurance also as well. Let's see, I think that's it. There was one more thing, but I think it's...
Well, while you're thinking about it, if I expand on the Chris Jones letter,
Please.
That isn't for additional funding. What it is that the localities and the federal government built a wing of that jail years ago. The state helped build with the localities the initial part of the jail. They have said, okay, well, if you get feds, which all the jails do, if you get feds, we get up to a certain point you can have anything over that, we're going to take some of the money. Then we built that wing, as I said, with the feds. They don't supply any of the guards. The state doesn't. The state doesn't supply any of the support. They don't supply the food. They don't supply anything in there. But yet they still want to take the money. And what we've got them up to finally is that we can get 75, I think it's 75, before they start taking money. We're currently, because of some problems with some other jails and with the flooding and all that had taken place with the hurricanes in North Carolina, we're now up to about 170, which means that we're now paying the state back money that they actually give us to run the other section of the jail. So what we wanted them to do was let us get up to 125, thinking that was a good even number. And he sent a letter back saying, oh, that would cost the state $300,000. So you can thank him because it's now going to cost the entities $300,000. So that's where it boils down to.
Okay. Yes.
Anybody else have?
Yes, Mr. McLemore and I attended the Social Services Advisory Board meeting on April 18th. And just quick points. There was a very good presentation by Gloria Wiggins about Alzheimer's. And in regards to the energy assistance programs, cooling assistance begins June 15th and ends August 15th. And in regards to numbers, last year, 540 applicants were served in regards to the energy. And it was also a discussion about raises. So.
Okay.
Since our appointment by resolution to the Franklin Housing Authority, Mr. Johnson and I will have the opportunity to attend our first meeting this coming Wednesday. And we will be doing our due diligence to ensure that the council is informed as to the operations of the housing authority and how it affects our citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess? I did attend a meeting with the schools. Schools put on a presentation to the realtors in town and in the area to share with them some of the new programs that the school has going and kind of a vision for where they want to be. I thought it was very well received. It was good to, to try to do some positive promotion for the school. So it was well attended and very good. I think that's about it. And again, Ms. Jarrett has mentioned all the things going on this weekend. We would encourage all the public to get out, participate in one of the multiple things that are going on, at least one. And some of us can maybe try to hit 2 or 3 of them. So.
Let me also explain. On the federals, anything over 110 that we are able to keep, we put into a special fund in case we get hit again like we did a few years ago where we had them taken away. Also, we keep it in there in case we have some things that we need to pay for. We can go ahead and pay cash for it and not come back to the entities to raise funds, money. Ms. Jarrett covered all the HR, PDC, and TPO pretty much. That was the big one. They emphasized that even if that doesn't flood where you live, if you live in Tidewater, you have a chance to be flooded. And that's why they put this organization together. They also gave updates on the billions of dollars that are being spent on the roads around here through the extra tax that's been levied on us in sales tax. And they got a lot of projects going on. If you've ridden to Virginia Beach lately, you've noticed no trees in the middle. They're tearing everything down. That's lane expansions they're doing.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to share that the mayor and I had the privilege of participating in the observation of the interview process for the potential new police chief. He was a very, very astute gentleman, and if the city and the council should hire him, I think that we will be having a very good person in that position, bringing a great deal to offer the city. And I'd like to thank Ms. Jarrett for allowing the mayor and myself to participate in that interview process.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else? Again, thank everybody for coming out. We appreciate it and like to see more of you more of the time.
Can I ask Mr. Pace, when is the next Amnesty Day?
October.
I thought we had one in the spring, too. We did already have it. I missed it.
Yeah.
First week in April.
Oh, and
I'll haul
Mr.
it down
Pace's
myself.
department has been doing a wonderful job on getting those streets lined with prism and everything. They're doing an outstanding job.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Franklin City Council meet in closed session to discuss appointments to boards and commissions, to discuss a prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, in consultation with the attorney employed by the city regarding specific legal matters requiring legal advice pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711 A1, 5, and 8.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. We are in closed session. Thank you very much.
Must have been too many taxis.